At a wedding that was supposed to be about love, family, and joy, I found myself crushed by a cruel joke. I was sitting in the third row of my younger sister's wedding, doing my best to stay invisible among all the perfect, polished guests. I wasn't wearing a designer dress. My son Luca sat beside me in his little suit, a gift from my tight budget, looking so proud to be there, thinking this day would finally make us feel part of the family again. But from the moment my sister Laura stood up to make her speech, I knew this wouldn't be a day of celebration for me. I braced myself as she called me out in front of the whole room. "My sister, the single mom, strong but clearly unwanted by anyone else," she said, laughing while everyone else joined in. Froze. My heart pounded as I tried to hold back tears, not in front of my son. But before I could escape, something unexpected happened. Laura's fiancé, Ethan, the groom, stood up, and the entire room went silent. His next words were not what anyone expected. "This is where my story starts." This was the moment that turned everything around for me. Because sometimes it's not the laughter that hurts the most, it's the silence that follows. This is Acts of Kindness stories. Stay with me to hear how one man's decision to stand up for what's right changed everything. At my sister's wedding, I had no idea that the night would unfold like this. I thought it would be like any other wedding I'd ever been to. An opportunity to share in the happiness of a new chapter, to dress up in my one rented dress, and to watch my sister, the star of the day, live out her fairy tale moment. But instead, it turned into something else, something that would forever change the way I saw family, love, and even myself. I sat there in the third row, looking around at the guests in their polished suits and designer dresses, feeling out of place in my simple dress and the shoes that had long lost their shine. My son Luca sat beside me, his little legs dangling from the chair, his eyes wide with wonder. He was so excited to be at his aunt's wedding, his face lighting up every time someone spoke to him or when he caught a glimpse of the elaborate decorations. He didn't notice how uncomfortable I was. He didn't see the way my mother looked at me as if I didn't belong there. All he knew was that we were there together, and that made him happy. My sister, Vivian, always had this energy, an effortless charm that made her the center of attention. She was the golden child, the one who never seemed to have to try. Always beautiful, always perfect, she got everything she wanted and was adored by everyone around her. And there I was in the background, trying my best to not be noticed. I had learned long ago to shrink into the shadows, to stay quiet, and to smile through whatever was thrown my way. After all, that's what family does, right? You just keep your head down and do your part, no matter how little recognition you get in return. But when the speeches began, I had no idea what was coming. The best man went first, telling mildly amusing stories that made the crowd chuckle. Then Vivian stood up, her sparkling champagne flute in hand, ready to say a few words about her sister. I thought maybe, just maybe, she would say something kind. Something about how we had grown up together, about the bond we shared as sisters. I even raised my glass in anticipation, waiting for the sentimental moment that would tie everything together. But it didn't come. Vivian started with a smile that I had seen 1,000 times. She thanked everyone for coming, talking about how much this day meant to her. But then, as she turned toward me, her smile faded into something colder, more calculated. "I'd like to say a special word about my big sister," she said, her voice light, almost teasing. "She's a role model. Single mom. Strong, independent, and clearly unwanted by anyone else." The words hit me like a punch to the gut, and for a moment I couldn't breathe. I looked around the room, but no one seemed to notice how sharp her words were. Some guests laughed, others looked away uncomfortably, but most of them just clinked their glasses, as if it was all a joke. But it wasn't funny to me. It wasn't funny to Luca either. I felt his small hand tug at my sleeve, and when he whispered, "Why did she say that about you, Mama?" it was like the world stopped. Before I could even respond, my mother, seated at the other end of the room, added loudly, "She's a used product, but hey, she still looks good for her age." The laughter that followed was sharper this time, the kind that felt like it was digging into my skin, turning my insides cold. My heart pounded in my ears, and I fought back tears. Not in front of Luca. Not in front of anyone. But inside, everything shattered. I was no longer part of the family. I was a joke, something to be mocked, something that everyone could laugh at. I glanced at my son again. His little face was filled with confusion. His innocent eyes searching for answers that I didn't have. He didn't understand why they were laughing at his mom, the woman who kissed his scraped knees and helped him with his homework late into the night. The woman who, despite everything, always found a way to make him feel loved. He didn't understand, and I didn't know how to make him see that the cruelty he was witnessing wasn't something he had to accept. I wanted to leave. I wanted to grab his hand and walk out of there, never to look back. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the idea that if I left, they would win. Maybe it was the hope that one day someone would finally see me for who I was, not the joke they made me out to be. Then, before I could make any decision, I heard the scrape of a chair against the floor. It was Ethan, Vivian's fiancé, the groom. He stood up, his face tight with anger, his eyes locked on me. The room fell into complete silence. I didn't know what to expect. A joke. A smooth recovery. But what happened next was not something anyone expected. He didn't look at Vivian. He didn't look at my mother or the guests. His gaze was fixed solely on me. In that moment, I knew something was about to happen. Not a rescue, not a fight, but something much more powerful. Something I didn't even realize I needed. Ethan stepped forward. His voice steady and clear as he took the microphone from Vivian without asking. The room waited with bated breath. "I've heard a lot about family over the past year," he began, his voice calm but firm. "About appearances, about tradition, about loyalty. But what I saw just now wasn't family. That was mockery dressed up as celebration." His words landed in the room like a bomb. The whispers started immediately, but no one spoke. No one dared to. Ethan wasn't finished. "Vivian," he continued, his eyes never leaving her, "you mocked your sister for being a single mother. You made fun of her for raising a child alone. And worse, you made her son watch it happen." Vivian opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. The whole room was frozen, and for the first time I didn't feel like I was the one who was small. Vivian looked around the room, and for the first time in her life, she wasn't the center of attention. Ethan turned his gaze to the crowd. "I won't stay silent. If I'm about to marry into a family that sees cruelty as humor and mockery as tradition, I need to reconsider what kind of man I want to be." The guests sat in stunned silence. And then, in a moment that shocked everyone, Ethan set the microphone down, walked out of the room, and left Vivian standing at the head table, completely broken. The room was still. No one clapped. No one cheered. For once, I wasn't the one standing alone in the room. The days that followed the wedding were full of unexpected calls, messages, and people reaching out to me, but I couldn't shake the stillness I felt inside. The video of Ethan's speech went viral. Over 50,000 views flooded in within a few days, and I found myself watching it over and over again. There was no doubt. Ethan's words had struck a chord. The comments poured in. People standing up for me, telling me I didn't deserve the cruelty I had been subjected to, some even calling Ethan a hero. It was overwhelming, but for the first time I felt heard, seen, and validated. Vivian, of course, tried to spin the story. She claimed Ethan overreacted and that people were too sensitive. But the truth had already spread. No one was laughing anymore, and the damage was done. The public exposure of her words left her without the perfect image she always prided herself on. Soon after, the engagement was called off quietly, without the fanfare we all expected. It was over. There was no grand apology or explanation, just an unspoken end to a chapter one was done with. In the months that followed, I found peace. My life didn't transform overnight, but it didn't need to. I wasn't carrying that weight anymore, the weight of their judgment. I no longer felt small. Luca too changed. He no longer asked why people were cruel, but instead spoke of kindness, fairness, and doing the right thing. He looked at Ethan as a role model, someone who stood up when it mattered, and I was proud of him for learning that lesson so young. What Ethan did wasn't just for me. It was a reminder for everyone in that room that standing up for what's right can change everything. It wasn't about a big fight, it wasn't about revenge. It was about dignity. So, if you've ever felt silenced, mocked, or unappreciated, know this: your voice matters. Your dignity is yours to protect, and sometimes you don't need to fight back. Sometimes you just need to walk away with your head held high, and the right person will make sure the truth is heard. If this story resonated with you, if you believe that kindness and standing up for what's right should be celebrated, please like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear this message, and leave a comment below. Don't forget to subscribe to Acts of Kindness Stories so you can join us in sharing more stories that inspire and remind us all of the power of kindness and strength. Let's reach 10,000 subscribers together. Thank you for being here.